This is a song, basically gets shot and comes back from the war, and he's pretty disturbed when he comes back, and he's not adjusting really to civilian life, and he still feels like a killing machine and kind of bloodthirsty, and so this song follows.
Hello, and welcome to Your Daily Strength Coach Podcast, Episode 6, Healing Them Joints.
This time is different. It's not like the time before.
Hello, and welcome to Episode 6 of Your Daily Strength Coach Podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 30th of June, 2015. Hope you've all enjoyed your month. It's been a good one for me. Been pretty quiet on the work front, but things are about to kick off again tomorrow. So looking forward to and not looking forward to that at the same time. Preseason is always a good time. So today's question is from episode 4 in the comment section. It comes from Chase W. Winchester. Great name if that is your name. I've recently noticed that my joints are weak. I took up powerlifting and made some great strength gains. But regardless of focusing on form and having the strength to lift, I've had some ankle and wrist problems. I took the time to recover, but also lost a lot of that progress. What would you recommend in terms of number of sets and repetitions, weight percentage, or programs to account for that? Okay, Chase. First and foremost, I would strongly advise you to find out what the underlying cause of your ankle and wrist problems are. Now that might mean speaking to your health professional or your general practitioner in the UK or your family doctor, wherever you live in the world. If you can, maybe go straight to like more of a sports-based practitioner, like a physiotherapist, physical therapist as they call it in the US, or a chiropractor or similar if that's what you use. Not really going to lay out any preferences for any of these options. But yeah, if there is some kind of underlying issue, whether there's a physiological issue, a morphological issue, whether you have some kind of underlying, maybe some arthritis, hopefully not, but maybe some arthritis in those joints, very unlikely not unless you'd be very unlucky if that was the case. It could be limited range of motion in the wrist is a very common cause of wrist discomfort lifting. Especially if you try to do some of the more lower bar options in the back squat that can be advocated by some coaches. Can place a lot of stress on the wrist if you're not holding the bar correctly. And even if you do hold the bar correctly, the weight of it kind of trying to roll down your back as you hold it in place is going to put pressure on that joint. So you can look at altering your technique in that scenario. Either buy a pair of good stiff wrist wraps that will support the wrist and probably take away most of that problem. This is kind of the solution the majority of lifters will do. They will take the increased tonnage over the comfort of their joints, which is very common, and probably the one you're going to take if you're a powerlifter. The other option is to go for a higher bar squat if you aren't already. If you're getting issues from a high bar squat, then look at where you have your grip. It could be too close, possibly, for your shoulder flexibility. So look at where you place the bar. Whether it's a low bar position, maybe look at some wrist wraps. If it's a high bar position, then look at where your hand placement is. That should take care of the wrist problems. Also, very common one, sorry, I neglected bench press. If you bench press kind of where the bar lies in the top of the palm of your hand rather than the bottom of the palm of your hand, where you get this is where a video would be useful. But it basically bends back the wrist. So you end up with like a 90-degree angle at the wrist and the bar sitting in your hands, and your knuckles facing the bench or the wall as opposed to the ceiling. This is also a major problem. So look at your bench setup. You really want the bar to be sitting right across the bottom of your palm with your knuckles facing the ceiling, and that bar over a nice straight wrist. So like you want your both arms like pistons at 90 degrees parallel to the floor, facing straight up, wrists and all. So you shouldn't really get any kind of wrist discomfort from powerlifting if you're doing the things correctly. or I'm trying to mitigate that problem. Ankle is an interesting one. It's not necessarily one I'm familiar with people getting issues with. I'm thinking just now maybe you're deep squatting without sufficient range of motion at the ankle. A pair of weightlifting shoes can help to remedy this, or some stretching, knee to wall stretching, downward dog, that sort of thing might help encourage some extra range of motion at that ankle. But certainly seek out the help of a professional on this one if you haven't already, because chances are if you've had problems in the past, and you take time off, and during that time off you haven't addressed the underlying issues, those problems are going to come back. So just a heads up on that one. As regards to having a long layoff, I'm just going to completely spitball here, and I'm going to guess you've had 2 months off training, of total non-training. You're coming in from a sedentary standpoint. It's going to probably take, again, this is going to differ between person to person, but if you took 8 weeks off, it's likely going to take 12 weeks to get back to where you were. So you're looking at basically the first block getting used to lifting again, not necessarily worrying about the poundages. So I would probably look at something fairly straightforward, like a 3x10 or a 5x5 sets rep scheme. Week 1, 2, 3. Maybe probably look at 3 sessions a week, squat 3 times, bench 3 times, deadlift variations twice, probably a deficit on Monday, and a deadlift from the floor on the Friday or day 3, and just some general kind of assistance to go along with that, some upper back, some lower back, some abdominal work. Start at 50% and work up to 70% in that cycle. So you need that as like a 3-week bridge. Afterwards, I would move, so possibly a good idea would be 3 sets of 10, starting at 50% and working up to 70% over that time frame. You can change the loads in the week if you want. So like Monday can be 3 sets of 10 if, let's say, the first week's 50%, so it could be 3 sets of 10 at 50% on the lifts. Week 2, session 2 could be 5 sets of 5 at a slightly heavier percentage or a slightly lighter percentage, like 45%, 55%, and then Friday can just be a repeat of Monday, and then you'd wave up 50%, 6%, 70% using 10s doing that. Block 2, you could go to 5x5s, so just dropping 5 reps off the total volume, but increasing the percentages. So you're going to probably go from 60% up to 80% using this. And again, I'll probably just jump up to 10%, start at 60%, 60%, 70%, 80%, week 4, 5, and 6. And just look at repeating the kind of loading pattern you've done before. So if you went for flat loading day 1, day 2, day 3, that's fine. We do the exact same workout. Or you stagger your workout intensity, so you have like a heavy day, a light day, and a very heavy day, or however you want to work it. It's entirely up to you. I'd probably just go for the straight up boring, same intensity, same workout 3 times a week for the first 6 weeks anyway. And then after that first 6 to 8 weeks, if you take deloads, then it's going to be 8 weeks. If you don't take the deloads, it's going to be 6. Then you can start off with kind of more a strength building program. So whatever you've used in the past. Sure, when you can look at the castironstrength.com website for some ideas. Over the course of the life of your online strength coach, we're certainly going to have programs and whatnot that we're going to be releasing. Probably going to address the issues that come up most in this kind of Q&A scenario. So coming back to training is one I've already had 2 questions on, sorry. So certainly a program that's probably going to be addressed in the future. But yeah, good question. Hope that's helped. That first 6 to 8 week period is you're basically spending 2 weeks getting up to like a 80% 5 sets of 5, or an 80% for 4 sets of 6, or whatever of previous bests. And you can even take those previous bests and maybe minus 10 kilos off them, or go to 9%, or whatever the rule is. But basically we're looking for volume and light volume for the first 6 to 8 weeks, because we're just working on technique, getting back in the habit of training. And that's the time that you're going to address these possible form issues that you might be having with your ankles and your wrists. Okay, so that's going to conclude today's episode. As always, questions, comments, topics you'd like covered, please leave a comment under this episode on YouTube. You can hook up with us on Facebook. Currently we're still on the castironstrength.com Facebook, although we will be moving on to Online Strength Coach eventually. And when we eventually do get on iTunes, you can contact us this way. If you want to send us an email, currently the email is speedpowerperformance@gmail.com. That is my general email that I'll be using for the next couple of weeks probably, until we migrate over. Until tomorrow, this is Mark of your online strength coach, or your daily online strength coach podcast, signing out. See you tomorrow.
Well, I cross my heart that I won't kill no more. Jesus, watch over me, keep my anger at home. You better bless these wicked hands